Police say Albert Callahan shot the victim several times in the torso before running out of this Taco Bell and out towards Interstate 64. Hey, Rick, the Huntington Fire Department says that 2 squatters were living inside of this home and actually had to jump out of the windows to escape the flames that eventually ran over to this house, destroying both homes. We are approaching the peak flood stage of the Ohio River here in Catlettsburg, Kentucky, and on the other side of this flood wall, the water's coming up to just about here. It's been causing headaches all day long and is going to continue doing so until it drops down. The EPA detected chromium-6 in the amount of parts per billion. For example, here in Cabell County, 1/800 billionth of this glass of water could contain chromium-6. To put that into context, that's 1 drop of chromium-6 in 800 Olympic swimming pools. Belfort, in conjunction with Kanawha County Schools, is taking each piece of equipment out of the schools and sanitizing it before placing it back inside, ready for student use. We tried to talk with jailer Joe Burchett as he left for work today, but he refused any comment. In the past, he said that he would not be stepping down, but an indictment for malfeasance issued earlier this week by a grand jury could force him out of office. Midstream bridges, culvert bridges, and roadways stood absolutely no chance against the floodwaters powerful enough to lift cars and wrap them around trees. City leaders say to show up early. The doors open at 4. The event starts at 7, and all of this will be shut down beginning at noon. Parking will be a bit of a headache, but all 3 surrounding parking garages will be open until 4 o'clock when people are let into the arena.
We decided to try it ourselves.
Definitely the half-inch.
And we learned some things.
3, 2, 1.
Lesson 1, I'm not strong enough to kick down a door.
The powerboat races aren't the only entertainment that you can have here at the 2015 Huntington Classic Regatta. They've also got a pretty nice carnival set up too. It works in stages. The first stage is detox, lasting 3 days to a week. Stage 2 involves lots of meetings and jobs to keep the addict busy. Stage 3 is a transitional phase where addicts take classes showing them evidence the program works. The next step is the longest, lasting 4 to 6 months. Here, addicts work a 12-step program and have community meetings where they hold each other accountable. The next to last stage puts the addict to work for 1 week in the detox center so that they can remember where they came from. To top it all off, addicts can live in a transitional house or become a peer mentor.
Family members say an early morning house fire in East Pea Ridge killed Tim Collins, and with his passing, also passed decades of history that shaped the Marshall University football program into what it is today. Collins played for the 1971 team, known as the Young Herd, because they filled the shoes of 75 people killed in a plane crash the year before.
He was one of those guys that everybody loved to be around.
Alan Meadows played right beside Collins in 71, helping rebuild the program from scratch.
We didn't know it at the time, but that was a very, if we don't do what we do, Marshall doesn't have a football program.
Meadows says Collins gave 110% on the field and didn't stop after graduation, joining the M Club, Big Green, and attending every tailgate.
Sometimes he had to be wheeled in, but he came and he sat through the tailgates.
Firefighters say a neighbor came to check on Collins Wednesday to find smoke filling the basement. They say the fire smoldered for hours beforehand and may have been started by a lit cigarette.
Bad things happen to good people, and, it's out of our hands.
Fire Chief J.P. Hockenberry says it doesn't look like Collins tried to escape the flames and likely died of smoke inhalation. Now, another son of Marshall ascends with his team.
He was a great citizen, not just football player.
The State Fire Marshal's office is investigating, but as of right now, they do not expect anything suspicious in Collins' death. Live in Huntington, Sean Delancey.
Any object in the world could be printed in this machine and those like it, found in a back room of the Robert C. Byrd Institute in Huntington. With 3D printers, the sky is the limit.
3D printers are used for a multitude of things.
Institute Deputy Director Jamie Cope watches over the printers as they churn out everything from Cleopatra to complex machine models and the Eiffel Tower.
There's limitations to what they can do, like any other tool out there, but it's growing every day, and the capabilities are getting broader, particularly as you get into more types of materials.
It all starts with an engineer loading a 3D scan into the printer.
I have the maker bot here.
Like this key model. Once it's loaded, the printer begins laying material layer by layer. Slowly, an object forms, the key taking roughly 15 minutes to shape.
And after all that is a house key.
3D blueprints can be found all over the internet on sites like Thingiverse, offering every model you could possibly imagine. The problem begins when colorful aliens aren't the models people choose to print and spread across the internet.
Thieves can take advantage of something as harmless as a picture posted to social media. If you've got a key somewhere in that picture, they can decode the ridges and then print that out as easily as we did the generics. Then they've got access to everything you want to stay locked up and you would never know.
Police say this type of petty crime is unlikely.
It's definitely on the radar because it already has been used for criminal purposes.
Tom Kirk heads up the Fusion Information Center, which gathers and distributes criminal information across the country. He says 3D printer-related crime has never been reported in West Virginia.
It doesn't mean it's not out there, it's just we haven't seen it yet.
He says that may be because the tech takes a wide knowledge base to use and the machines can be pricey. These RCBI machines run $2,000 a piece, and more advanced printers could run into the millions of dollars.
If you go to our metal printer, you're talking at easily $500,000.
What is currently happening, Kirk says, is large-scale organizations using $500,000 machines to print untraceable guns, handcuff keys, and soon, when the technology is widely available, criminals could print their own designer drugs at home by laying down layers of chemicals.
We've seen no designer drugs at this point here, but without a doubt it's coming.
Kirk says it's difficult to stay ahead because every new issue pits law enforcement against the entire global internet community working in tandem to find the next best way to outsmart them. And once it's out, there's no getting it back.
Is it ever possible to remove something completely from the internet?
No. Real quick answer to that is absolutely no.
As long as you're giving people the ability to create things, they're going to be able to figure out ways to create whatever it is they're interested in.
Cope says the negative consequences of this technology existing can all be blamed on the person using it.
A saw is not a dangerous thing, but if somebody wasn't using it the right way, certainly it would be.
The positives, he says, far outweigh the negatives, and until police get ahead of rapidly changing technology and the criminals taking advantage of it, the bad will come along with the good. The only way to stay ahead of the bad, Kirk says, is a thriving intelligence community aided by tips from a vigilant public.
It's hard for me to judge how important that is. I know when I was young troop, I would have loved to have had information like that.
Construction on the fire-damaged Johnson Memorial Methodist Sanctuary is just beginning. Fire tore the side wall of the Huntington Church last December.
Places you don't even realize are places are just covered with smoke, soot. It's just a mess.
Pastor Jack Lippert says the sanctuary isn't fit for Easter service. And as they searched for a place to celebrate Jesus Christ's ascension on the cross,
But of all Sundays, of all days,
the B'nai Shalom Synagogue offered to take them in.
one of the first calls I got was from Rabbi Gene to say if there's anything we can do. It just shows the depth of grace and love of the B'nai Shalom congregation.
We are a group, all of us, and I think it's really, I love it that they've invited us.
Parishioners like Anita Farrell are excited to have a proper house of worship for such an important holiday.
Christmas and Easter, you see people that you don't usually see, people from out of town, grandchildren, that kind of thing. So we need some space.
She says actions like these, breaking down perceived barriers between worshipers, is what religion is about. Look at it that way, and an Easter celebration at Temple isn't so odd after all.
You know, Jesus was a Jew, and Jesus went to the synagogue, so how appropriate. I love it.